So, Final Fantasy VII Remake. This game was so much fun for me. As someone who's played a few of the other Final Fantasy games, I kicked myself for so long about not getting to play Final Fantasy VII. I heard about how great this game was, and getting to play the remake gave me a chance to catch up on all the stuff I missed. Apparently this game goes in a slightly different direction from the original, but I completely enjoyed the trip. There were a few oddities in this game like ghost creatures and how much of a bro Cloud apparently is, but it was fun to play through and has a lot to brag about.
I get it, bro. You're scared. It's only natural for people to fear the unknown. It's a pity you're not gonna join us, but I swear to you, bro, as an aspiring wall market connoisseur, I'm gonna go in there and get as much inspiration as I can handle. For you, bro. For you. Because, Cloud, you are my one true bro.
This game is incredibly beautiful. The graphics and animation of this game are something that the developers clearly took their time on. Some of the scenes from this game using the in-game engine and the cutscenes were jaw-dropping. There were so many times during the game where I had to stop and stare at the world because of how great it looked. Something minor that was surprising and refreshing was that the characters weren't just dubbed. The lip sync was actually made for English, including the cutscenes. I know it's such a simple thing, but with a game this big to completely remake all of the scenes for the English voices is well appreciated and adds to the experience.
He's got balls, this, what was his name again?
Cloud Strife.
Right.
And he isn't a soldier anymore. Still, he's a professional, unlike the rest of us.
It helps that all the characters are also written to sound more realistic with some of their responses.
Yeah. What's it for, anyway? Why do you guys want it?
And how's that any of your business, young lady? Learn to wipe your own ass before you start rooting around in other people's shit.
Sometimes they can be serious and also funny. There are a few moments when the mouths of the NPCs go all wonky though. It kind of reminded me of Mass Effect Andromeda, when their mouths go all wide and they look ridiculous.
Tifa, you won't believe this! A cerulean drake flew in from the train graveyard, but these two clowns refused to get up their butts and do anything about it!
Fortunately, it's not most of the game and it doesn't really happen with the main characters. The voice acting is also really good. The characters were believable and not too much on the anime side. There was that stupid thing when they make all those unnecessary anime noises though.
Welcome home, honey. Took your sweet time. Psych.
I let you off the hook before, back at the hall, but not this time.
Other than that, the characters are emotional and impactful, funny when they need to be and serious when they need to be, with some very compelling parts of the game. There is an issue with audio sometimes when the music is so overbearing that you can't even hear some of the dialogue.
Hey, thanks. For when you jumped on the train.
No biggie. You're pretty late, you know.
You always know what to say.
Cloud gets a lot of attention this time around. All of the women in this game can't stop swooning over him. He's a complete babe magnet. I mean, there are parts where several of the characters are all over him. Literally parts where you have to decide whether or not to spend a night with someone. This game is also very suggestive in some parts, where the innuendo is constant. And the sauce.
A favor.
What you need?
Something only real men can deliver. I need you to go and get me something from the vending machine at the inn. You know what? You know.
No, I don't think I... Wait, the sauce.
The sauce?
Stop saying the sauce.
What is the sauce? If you haven't heard about it by now, there are also several parts where Cloud ventures into some unknown waters. As cringeworthy as it is to watch how uncomfortable he is, it's a nice release from the seriousness of the character and the game. This game has several parts where it does not take itself too seriously, and some parts where the action and intensity is non-stop. It keeps the game dynamic and interesting, and actually makes for a better story. All of the iconic music from the original comes back, and even more music is collectible throughout the game. Some can be bought from vendors, and others will be given to you simply for talking to NPCs. There's even different music for different areas in the game, which adds a unique feel to each. If you're in an area for a while, the music can get a little repetitive. There were certain parts of the game where I started to get really annoyed because I'd keep hearing the same song over and over in the collapsed expressway. Fortunately, just moving into another zone changes that. Aside from the main story, there is plenty of reason to go off the beaten path. You can find materia, gil, and side missions that you wouldn't have found otherwise.
Disengaging time lock.
Okay.
What? This is summoning material.
Materia comes in different colors, and the different colors have different properties to them. Green is mostly for spell casting, purple is for stat boost, blue is for support, and yellow is pretty much for anything else outside of that, like steal or assess. There are also red orbs that are for summoning. Some materia can only be found by going off the beaten path or by completing side missions, so there's even more incentive to venture out. You also have different choices that you can make during the game that will affect certain outcomes. Some characters can wear different clothing in certain sections depending on the choice you made earlier in the game. After playing some of the previous Final Fantasies, I was a little bit worried about the combat system. I wasn't really a fan of the turn-based combat, so the demo and the actual game made me feel a lot better about it. The action is actually hands-on, with you being able to attack, defend, dodge, and cast abilities and spells without having to wait your turn. There is another mode that can be chosen called Classic, which takes over the attack and defense for you. The battle is pretty much automatic, and you can decide whether to cast abilities or not. Or, you can just let the fight play out without hitting a single button. It's basically easy mode without you ever having to really engage in difficult combat. Because of the option to take hands-on control of the characters this time around, I prefer the normal mode, and combat is more fun for me in these games. While you're fighting, regardless of which mode you're playing in, you can build up something called ATB charges. These charges allow you to use items, spells, or special abilities, that some of which are specific to certain characters. Some abilities can use more charges, so they won't be as readily available as others. The combat can be fun, but sometimes the difficulty can randomly spike. The one spell that isn't slotted in your 1 or 2 person group can be the difference between a fight that takes a few seconds and one that lasts several minutes while you're constantly fighting to stay alive. For instance, there are some enemies that need to be brought down to the ground first before you can do any kind of damage. If you didn't slot that arrow spell, trying to melee to the ground can take forever, especially if they are resistant to physical damage or they constantly knock you down. If you're not prepared for a fight, you do often have the option to flee or reload a previous save. AP is gained from battle to increase experience for some of your materia. Leveling up materia can increase spell power for increased damage and spell cost. It can be maxed out and freely traded between your characters, even characters that aren't currently in your party. Different equipment builds stats and more materia slots. Unfortunately, different equipment does not change character appearance. A badass new bracer or vest will not visually show up on your character. This remake is not a quick run-through. It's a pretty long game if you decide to do all the side stuff, and some of the side missions can take a while. There's also a lot of backtracking you have to do for some of the missions, and fast travel doesn't open up until close to the end of the game. Fortunately, a lot of the things you may skip or miss can be returned to later once the fast travel does become available, making it easier to finish some of the missions. Saving is also super convenient with a single button press after you pause the game, even though it does take a little bit to actually save. Understandable since the game is so visually impressive. Once the game is actually beaten, you'll have a chance to play through it again on different difficulty settings, and through chapters while retaining all of your equipment from the previous playthroughs. If you want more of a challenge, you can play on hard mode, which offers more AP but completely restricts item use. No more potions, ether, or grenades. When your teammates go down, one of your other teammates better have a revive spell or the fight's going to get a whole lot harder. You could get more skill books in this mode though, so there's plenty of incentive to try it. You also get to view which items you did or did not collect through your choices and what you may have missed from the chapter selection screen. Now, I am new to Final Fantasy VII, but after hearing so much about the original, I was expecting more Sephiroth. He's barely in the game and makes most of his appearance late in the game. There's also these ghost-like creatures called Whispers. I honestly thought Cloud was hallucinating every time he saw him, as he seems to do that a lot throughout the game. They seem to intervene in everything, and I guess they weren't part of the original. They do seem a little odd, like they really don't have a place in the story, but I did get used to it after a while. Another thing that bothered me was that there was so much left unanswered by the end of the game. I feel like there was so much story that could have been explored. There are talks of this game having a sequel, and I welcome it because this game has so much to offer. Hopefully the sequel will pick up on the left-out backstory of Cloud and Sephiroth, or the unknown soldier carrying Cloud off the battlefield. Aside from some of the issues that I mentioned before with the music playing over the dialogue too loudly, or talking animations going all Andromeda and the repetitive music in some areas, this game was really good. I know some people who are fans of the original are a little upset that many of the events have changed, but I really enjoyed this game. It's beautifully designed sights and characters, it's thrilling action, amazing personalities, it's goofy and innuendo-filled dialogue, and the return of some great music. This game has so much to offer new fans and manages to add new possibilities and surprise the older ones. I highly recommend that people play this game because it's really good, and I know I'm going to go back to this one for a while. So that's the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's an all-around great game with so much to offer for a future installment. If you enjoyed this video or thought it was interesting, please like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.